Welcome to First Thursday. A full year has passed since I began sharing with you the poems and aphorisms from my book on giving my word. We are in the season of Advent, the season of expectation. The themes of Advent are well served by reprising Mary, the mother of our Lord, the God-bearer, not as a devotion of the Queen of Heaven, but as a relationship with the human maiden of Nazareth, whose humanity is linked to the humanity of Christ. For a long time, I've used a story that I invented, which imagines a journey of Mary, heavy with child, going to Bethlehem. It relies on, to be sure, one's imagination, as we have from the Gospel of Luke alone, two reports that an annunciation took place with Mary in Nazareth, and a child was born in Bethlehem of Judea, which implies the necessity of a journey of some 70 miles made late in Mary's pregnancy. I shaped this journey into 7 meditations corresponding to 7 days that trip might be broken down into logically. Each of those days has at its center one of the antiphons, which were originally composed as antiphons for the Magnificat, sung in the last 7 days before Christmas. Later, they were collected and sung as the well-known Advent carol, O come, Emanuel. Each of the 7 verses turns on a name of the Messiah. The fourth of the names is the key of David. This name is found in the book of Isaiah, and the key of the house of David will lay upon his shoulders, and he shall open and none shall shut. He shall shut and none shall open. It also occurs in the book of Revelation, where the words of the glorified Christ are addressed to the angel of the church of Philadelphia. These are the words of the Holy One, the true one, who has the key of David, who opens and no one shall shut, who shuts and no one shall open. The key is the symbol of authority, an authority that has passed from the Messiah to the church, according to the Gospel of Matthew, where it is associated with the authority of guarding the inclusivity of the church, of forgiving and holding responsible sin. In my imagined journey of Mary, the 4th day finds her and Joseph in the middle of that stretch along the Jordan Valley between 2 dusty villages, Zaphon and Adam. On that stretch was a fortress built by Herod, the Alexandrium, which stood atop of a conical mountain. Clearly, not the work of nature, but rather the work of engineers, a rather obscene intrusion on the valley, which leaves even today an eerie effect as one passes down the Jordan. The role of Herodian soldiers pass Mary and Joseph, and the encounter raises for them the legitimacy of their authority. Instinctively, Mary wants to trust them, even as Joseph instinctively distrusts them. In time, Mary and Joseph see a small group of merchants coming towards them. Now reading from page 150 of the book. Sometime after the soldiers had passed them, they spotted a group that looked like merchants, traveling north towards them. As they drew near, it was clear that some of them were wounded. Joseph rushed ahead to meet them and quickly began to help them dress their wounds. The words between them and Joseph were cryptic, but Mary could tell that Joseph was understanding what they were saying with perfect clarity. A few words had told him what had happened. Mary slipped off the donkey and joined Joseph in helping the wounded. Slowly, their story was sinking into her consciousness. The group had been stopped by the same Herodian soldiers who had passed them. Their answers to the soldiers' questions had not been satisfactory, that the soldiers had beaten some of them. The beatings were supposed to elicit the answers that the soldiers wanted, and had gone on for some considerable length of time, since the merchants had no answers to give that would satisfy the soldiers. Why were the soldiers so insistent, and what had they wanted to know? It seemed that during the past week, somewhere along the road between Bethlehem and the Alexandrium, a similar squad of Herodian soldiers had been ambushed by a group of zealots. One of the soldiers had been killed and severely wounded. The way the group spokesman pursed his lips as he recounted this story made it clear that the injury to the soldiers gave him a great deal of satisfaction. It was clear to Mary that these merchants held these Herodian soldiers in great contempt. It was also clear that this news neither surprised her husband nor found in him any form of a rebuttal. She had, of course, overheard her husband arguing with the men of Nazareth. He would speak about the key of David, and in that argument insist that Herod could not be a legitimate king because he was an Idumean, not a Jew, and even if he was a convert to Judaism, he could not be king because he was not of the house of David. She thought that Joseph argued this out of fun or pride in his own lineage. Now she changed her mind. Joseph seemed to possess a seriousness about the matter that she had up to now underestimated. After about an hour, the merchants resumed their journey north and they south. Mary could not get out of her head the conundrum that those who were in authority did not respect the people, and in turn were not respected by the people. Her husband included. How could one be saved? How could one be safe in such a world where true authority was missing? How could one feel good about bringing a child into that world? A phrase entered Mary's mind, which she remembered overhearing Joseph use in his argument with the men of Nazareth. He would speak of the key of David. It seemed to name a hope, to name a Messiah whom God would send. This Messiah would bring an authority that would be respected by the people because it understood that its task as king and reign would serve the people. In turn, the authority would be respected by the people because they would know that their life needed to be under authority. Obviously, no man held this key of David. Not the Herodians who would beat witnesses, not the Romans whose arbitrary reign was sending her on this arduous trip, not the priests of her own people who were more concerned about their share of the sacrifice than the prayers, not the self-appointed Pharisees who judged everyone to be beneath them. With the sudden loss of her innocence, she found herself with no legitimate authority unto whom she could entrust herself. Was there nothing to do except to wait? She struggled with the puzzle. If this authority which is to come belonged to God, it would have already been there. How else could men have come to have formed an expectation about it if it hadn't been there once for them in some form or other? If the eternal God who will be also once was, then he had to be right now as well. Suddenly she surrendered to the authority which had no soldier to enforce it, no priest to parse it, no scribe to declare it Korban. At the same time, she trusted her unborn child to the protection of that authority. Whatever soldiers did or failed to do, that authority would justify bringing her child into the world. With her hands lifting her heavy abdomen, she prayed, O come, thou King of David, come. O come, thou Key of David, come, and open wide our heavenly home, make safe the way that leads on high, and close the path of misery. The question of authority is an issue in which we find ourselves deeply conflicted even today. It's obvious in those places where the world is at war, but is also true in our social order. There is a crisis in our policing which cuts both ways. What authority do I have to ask someone to get out of a car? What authority am I under that makes me get out of the car? Where does this authority come from, or is it just a question of power? Our politics is equally conflicted. What confers authority on an elected official? What authority asks me to respect the acts of that official? Or does it just come down to power? Not too long ago, it seemed that judges had an authority, which is more than simply a matter of power. This seems to get disproven daily as trials become contests over power. Power-appointed judges, power-prolonged trials that sue and countersue. We might look to the challenge of our Advent as summoning authority, which will distribute justice and peace across the world. We might pray, O come, thou Key of David, come. Catherine Tanner, an Episcopal theologian, has recently written in her book called Christ the Key. In it, she says, Christ is the key to what God is doing everywhere. Christ clarifies and specifies the nature, aim, and trustworthiness of all God's dealing with us, because that is where those dealings with us come to their ultimate fruition. Now, that might sound evangelical, because it is, but in the best sense. And you need to be aware that the first impact of that call is not on those out there, those others, but is on oneself, is putting oneself under the authority of the Christ before it is an issue for anyone else. Well, during the month, there may be a Christmas special or two on this channel. And of course, First Thursday will come on January 4th. Thank you.